Maya Richardson wiped the sweat from her forehead as she pulled into the Sunoco gas station on Highway 45. The Texas sun was brutal today, beating down on the asphalt like a hammer. She'd been driving for 3 hours straight and her old Honda needed fuel. More importantly, she needed a cold bottle of water and maybe some chips. For the past 3 months, Maya had been living a double life. By day, she was known as Michelle Roberts, a freelance financial consultant who helped small businesses with their accounting. She drove a beat-up car, wore casual clothes from Target, and lived in a modest apartment in a middle-class neighborhood. But her real identity was far different. Maya was actually Special Agent Maya Richardson of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and she was deep undercover in one of the most important cases of her career. She was tracking a massive money laundering operation. The criminals she was investigating were smart, careful, and dangerous. They moved millions of dollars through fake businesses and shell companies. Maya had spent months gaining their trust, attending meetings and slowly gathering evidence. In just 2 days, they were planning their biggest transaction yet. If everything went according to plan, the FBI would swoop in and arrest everyone involved. But until then, Maya had to maintain her cover. One wrong move, one slip of the tongue, and months of work would be destroyed. As she stepped out of her car, Maya stretched her legs. She was wearing black athletic shorts, a simple white tank top, and sneakers. Her natural curly hair was pulled back in a ponytail. She looked like any other woman stopping for gas on a Tuesday afternoon. Nothing suspicious, nothing unusual, just someone trying to get through another day. She inserted her credit card into the pump and started filling her tank. The gas station was fairly busy. A few other cars were parked at different pumps. Inside the convenience store, she could see Mr. Chen, the elderly Asian man who owned the place, helping customers at the register. Everything felt normal, peaceful even. Maya pulled out her phone and checked her messages. There was a text from her real supervisor at the FBI asking for an update. She typed back a quick response, keeping it vague just in case anyone was watching. In her line of work, paranoia wasn't a flaw. It was a survival skill. That's when she noticed the police car. It pulled into the gas station slowly, deliberately. Then another one followed right behind it. Both cars had their lights off, but something about the way they moved made Maya's instincts kick in. She'd been in law enforcement long enough to recognize when cops were approaching with purpose. They weren't just stopping for coffee. The two cruisers pulled up directly behind her Honda, blocking it in. Maya's heart rate increased slightly, but she kept her face calm. She continued pumping gas, pretending not to notice. Maybe they were here for someone else. Maybe this had nothing to do with her. 2 officers stepped out of the first car. The one in front was a white man in his early 30s, stocky build with a military-style haircut. His nameplate read Morrison. His partner was slightly younger, Latino, and looked nervous. His name was Stevens. They both had their hands resting on their belts near their weapons. Officer Morrison walked directly toward Maya. His expression was hard, suspicious. "Excuse me, ma'am," he called out. "I need to see your license and registration." Maya turned to face him, keeping her movements slow and visible. "Is there a problem, officer?" she asked politely. "Your vehicle matches the description of one involved in a theft reported about 20 minutes ago," Morrison said. His tone was accusatory, not investigative. "We need to verify your identity." Maya's mind raced. This was bad, very bad. Her real FBI credentials were hidden in a secret compartment in her car, along with classified case files and surveillance equipment. She couldn't just flash her badge without compromising the entire operation, but she also couldn't afford to get arrested on some bogus charge. "I haven't stolen anything," Maya said calmly. "I've been driving on the highway all day. I just stopped here to get gas." "That's what they all say," Morrison replied. He turned to his partner. "Stevens, call for backup. We're going to need to search this vehicle." "Wait a minute," Maya protested. "You need probable cause to search my car. I haven't done anything wrong." Morrison's jaw tightened. "Are you refusing to cooperate with a police investigation?" "I'm not refusing anything," Maya said, choosing her words carefully. "I'm asking you to follow proper procedure. If my car matches a description, that's fine. Check my license. Run my plates. But you can't just search my property without cause." By now, other people at the gas station had started to notice. A young black couple at the next pump was watching nervously. An older white woman was recording the interaction on her phone. Mr. Chen had come outside, standing in the doorway of his store with concern on his face. Officer Stevens shifted uncomfortably. Morrison, maybe we should just run her information first, he suggested quietly. But Morrison wasn't backing down. He'd made up his mind about Maya the moment he saw her. Ma'am, I'm going to need you to place your hands on the vehicle, he ordered. Are you serious right now? Maya asked, her frustration starting to show. She was an FBI agent with 10 years of experience. She'd tracked down terrorists, dismantled drug cartels, and put murderers behind bars. And now she was being treated like a criminal at a gas station because of what? The color of her skin? The car she drove? Hands on the vehicle. Now, Morrison repeated, his hand moving closer to his gun. Maya knew she had a choice to make. She could continue to resist and risk this situation turning violent, or she could comply and hope to de-escalate things without revealing her true identity. Neither option was good. She placed her hands flat on the hood of her Honda. The metal was hot from the sun, burning her palms slightly. She felt Morrison grab her wrists roughly, pulling them behind her back. The cold metal of handcuffs clicked shut around her wrists. You're under arrest for obstruction of justice and suspicion of theft, Morrison announced loudly. Clearly performing for the growing crowd, Maya closed her eyes and took a deep breath. This was a nightmare, but she had to stay calm. She had to think. Somewhere inside her car was a small emergency device she could activate if absolutely necessary. It would alert the FBI that an agent was in distress, but using it meant exposing her cover. It meant potentially destroying 3 months of work and letting dangerous criminals escape. As Officer Morrison led her toward the police car, Maya made eye contact with Mr. Chen. The store owner looked horrified. "Officers, I saw this woman," he called out. "She just pulled up 10 minutes ago. She hasn't caused any trouble." Morrison ignored him completely. Maya was pushed into the back of the police cruiser, her hands cuffed behind her. The door slammed shut. Through the window, she could see more people filming with their phones. This was going to be all over social media within the hour. And somewhere in the city, the criminals she'd been tracking for 3 months were going about their business, completely unaware that their biggest threat was currently sitting in handcuffs in the back of a police car. The inside of the police cruiser smelled like stale coffee and sweat. Maya sat in the back seat, her hands cuffed uncomfortably behind her. The plastic seat was hard and hot from the Texas sun. Through the window she watched as Officer Morrison walked back to her Honda, talking into his radio. This couldn't be happening. Not now. Not when she was so close to completing her mission. Maya had worked too hard to let this fall apart. 3 months ago, the FBI had received a tip about a sophisticated money laundering operation moving through Dallas. The organization was washing millions of dollars through fake businesses, real estate deals, and overseas accounts. They were connected to drug trafficking, weapons sales, and possibly even human trafficking. The Bureau needed someone who could go deep undercover, someone smart enough to understand complex financial systems, and someone who could blend into different environments. Maya had volunteered immediately. She'd always been good at undercover work. Growing up, she'd learned to code switch, to adapt to different situations. Her mother had taught her how to survive in a world that often judged her before she even opened her mouth. Those lessons had served her well in the FBI, but right now those skills weren't helping. Officer Stevens opened the driver's door and slid into the front seat. He glanced back at Maya through the metal cage that separated them. "Look," he said quietly, "Morrison can be intense. Just cooperate and this will go smoothly." Maya met his eyes. "I am cooperating. I haven't done anything wrong." Stevens looked uncomfortable. "Your car matched a description. We have to follow up on these things." "What description?" Maya asked. "What exactly was I supposed to have stolen?" Stevens hesitated. "A woman matching your description was reported shoplifting from a department store about 5 miles from here. She fled in a dark-colored sedan." Maya almost laughed. Almost. "A black woman in a dark car. That's your probable cause? Do you have any idea how many people fit that description?" Stevens didn't respond. He knew she was right, but he also wasn't willing to challenge his partner. Morrison returned to the car, looking frustrated. "Run her license," he told Stevens. "Michelle Roberts. And check the VIN on that vehicle. Something's not adding up." Of course it wasn't adding up. Michelle Roberts was a carefully constructed identity. Her driver's license was real, issued by the state of Texas. Her car was registered properly. Her credit history showed someone with a modest income who paid bills on time. Everything about Michelle Roberts was designed to be boring and unmemorable. But if Morrison dug too deep, if he ran the wrong database or asked the wrong questions, he might stumble onto something that didn't quite fit, and that would raise even more red flags. Maya needed to get out of this situation fast. She discreetly pressed her wrists against the handcuffs, feeling for the small watch on her left wrist. It looked like an ordinary fitness tracker, the kind millions of people wore, but hidden in its design was an emergency beacon. One long press of the button, and it would send a distress signal directly to her FBI supervisor. The problem was simple. If she activated the beacon, the FBI would come. They'd extract her from this situation, but her cover would be blown. The criminals she'd been tracking would hear about an FBI agent being arrested at a gas station and then mysteriously released. They'd put two and two together. They'd disappear, and all of this work would be for nothing. Maya had to make a choice. Her pride, her sense of justice wanted to fight this, but her training told her to be smart, to think strategically. Morrison was now searching her car. He'd popped the trunk and was going through her belongings. He pulled out her laptop, examined it, then held it up triumphantly. "Encrypted laptop," he called out to Stevens. "What's a financial consultant doing with military-grade encryption?" Stevens turned to look at Maya again. "Ma'am, why is your computer encrypted?" "Because I handle sensitive financial information for my clients," Maya responded smoothly. It was the truth, just not the whole truth. "Privacy is important in my line of work." "Yeah, I bet it is," Morrison muttered. He continued searching, pulling out files, notebooks, her gym bag. The crowd at the gas station had grown larger. At least a dozen people were watching now. Mr. Chen was arguing with Morrison, trying to tell him this was all a mistake. A young woman with her phone camera was live-streaming the entire incident. Maya could hear her narration. "This is wrong. They just pulled up and targeted this woman for no reason. This is racial profiling, straight up." She wasn't wrong. Maya had been in law enforcement long enough to understand the statistics. Black Americans were more likely to be pulled over, more likely to be searched, more likely to be arrested, even when they'd done nothing wrong. She'd studied these patterns in training. She'd testified about them in court, but experiencing it firsthand, feeling the cold metal of handcuffs cutting into her wrists, seeing the suspicion in Morrison's eyes, it hit different. This wasn't theoretical anymore. This was personal. "Found something," Morrison said. He was holding up a burner phone Maya kept for emergency contact with her FBI handlers. "Why does a financial consultant need a second phone?" "It's for work," Maya said simply. "I keep my personal and professional communications separate." Morrison didn't buy it. "We're taking her in. I want to run a full background check. Something's off about this whole situation." Stevens started the engine. The police cruiser pulled out of the gas station, leaving Maya's Honda behind. As they drove, Maya watched the familiar streets of Dallas pass by the window. She'd driven these roads 100 times in the past 3 months. Always careful, always watching for tails, always maintaining her cover, and now it was all potentially falling apart because of a routine traffic stop. No, not routine. Racial profiling disguised as procedure. They arrived at the police precinct 15 minutes later. It was a standard suburban station, brick building with American flags flying out front. Morrison parked and yanked open the back door. "Let's go," he said, pulling Maya out roughly. Inside the station, Maya was processed like any other suspect. They took her fingerprints. They photographed her. They confiscated her phone, her watch, including the emergency beacon, her wallet. Everything went into a plastic bag with her name written on it. A female officer arrived to conduct a pat-down search. Maya stood with her arms outstretched, maintaining her dignity, even as she was treated like a criminal. The officer was professional but thorough. She found nothing, of course. Maya wasn't carrying anything illegal. Finally, Maya was led to an interrogation room. It was exactly like the dozens of interrogation rooms she'd been in before, except this time she was on the wrong side of the table. The room was small, windowless, with a metal table bolted to the floor and chairs that were deliberately uncomfortable. A camera was mounted in the corner, recording everything. Morrison and Stevens entered and sat down across from her. Morrison had her laptop, her burner phone, and a folder with her fake identity information. "So, Michelle," Morrison began, emphasizing the name like he didn't believe it. Want to tell us what you're really doing in Dallas? Maya looked him directly in the eyes. I want to speak to a lawyer. Morrison smiled coldly. Innocent people don't immediately ask for lawyers. Innocent people who know their rights do, Maya responded calmly. I'm invoking my Fifth Amendment right to remain silent, and my Sixth Amendment right to legal counsel. I will not answer any questions without an attorney present. Morrison's smile faded. He'd been hoping to intimidate her, to get her talking. But Maya knew the law better than he did. She'd spent years studying constitutional rights, interrogation techniques, legal procedures. She wasn't going to be bullied into incriminating herself, especially when she hadn't done anything wrong. Fine, Morrison said, standing up abruptly. Sit here and think about your choices. We'll be running every database we can find. If you're hiding something, we'll discover it. The two officers left the room, slamming the door behind them. Maya was alone now. Handcuffs finally removed, but trapped in a 6-by-8-foot room. She closed her eyes and took several deep breaths. Her FBI training included scenarios like this. She knew how to stay calm under pressure. But this was different. This wasn't a training exercise. This was real. And the clock was ticking. Outside that room, criminals were still operating. Her carefully built cover identity was being scrutinized. And somewhere, hopefully, her FBI supervisor had noticed she'd missed a scheduled check-in. The question was, would help arrive before everything fell apart? Maya sat alone in the cold interrogation room, staring at the concrete walls. 45 minutes had passed since Morrison and Stevens had walked out. Standard interrogation techniques she knew. Leave the suspect alone. Let them stew in their anxiety. Hope they'll be more willing to talk when the officers return. But Maya wasn't a suspect. She was a federal agent. And with every minute that passed, her mission was becoming more compromised. She thought about the criminals she'd been tracking. The leader was a man named Vincent Torres, mid-40s, second-generation Mexican-American with a business degree from UT Austin. On paper, Vincent owned 3 legitimate businesses, a car wash, a restaurant, and a small import-export company. In reality, those businesses were fronts for moving dirty money. Maya had spent weeks gaining his trust, pretending to be a financial consultant who could help him optimize his tax situation. She'd met with his associates, attended meetings, carefully documented everything. In 2 days, Vincent was planning to move $4 million through a series of transfers. The FBI had been building this case for over a year. Maya was the final piece, the inside source who could provide the evidence they needed for warrants and arrests, and now she was sitting in a police interrogation room because Officer Morrison had decided she looked suspicious. The door opened suddenly, but it wasn't Morrison or Stevens who entered. It was a woman Maya hadn't seen before, mid-40s, black, wearing a detective's badge. Her expression was carefully neutral. Ms. Roberts, the woman said, sitting down across from Maya. I'm Detective Sarah Williams. I need to ask you a few questions. Maya remained silent. She'd already invoked her right to an attorney. Legally, they couldn't interrogate her further. But she was curious about why they'd sent a black female detective. Was this supposed to make her feel more comfortable? More likely to talk? Detective Williams seemed to sense Maya's thoughts. I'm not here to interrogate you, she said quietly. I'm here because I just got a very interesting phone call. Maya's heartbeat quickened, but she kept her face expressionless. The call came from our police chief, Williams continued. She was on the phone with someone from the federal government. And apparently there's been a significant misunderstanding. Maya wanted to feel relieved, but she couldn't show it. Not yet. Williams leaned forward slightly. Those officers out there, Morrison and Stevens, they think they've caught someone involved in criminal activity. But what they've actually done is arrest a federal agent working deep undercover on a major case. Is that correct? Maya maintained eye contact but said nothing. Williams sighed. Look, I understand you can't break cover, I get it. But right now there are FBI agents on their way here. Your supervisor is about to walk through that door, and when he does, this whole situation is going to blow up in a very public way. I'm trying to figure out how we contain this. Then maybe you should ask Officers Morrison and Stevens why they racially profiled a woman at a gas station, Maya said quietly. It was the first thing she'd said since requesting a lawyer, and the words came out sharper than she intended. Williams didn't flinch. You're right, and that's going to be addressed. But right now, I need to know how we handle this without compromising your operation. The door burst open before Maya could respond. A tall, well-dressed white man in his 50s strode in, followed by two younger agents. Maya recognized him immediately. Special Agent in Charge Robert Chen, her direct supervisor at the FBI. Saki Chen looked furious. His normally calm demeanor was nowhere in sight. "Where are the officers who arrested my agent?" he demanded. Detective Williams stood up quickly. "Sir, if you'll come with me, the police chief wants to speak with you directly." "I want to speak with Agent Richardson first," Chen said firmly, using Maya's real name for the first time in months. Williams glanced at Maya, then nodded. "I'll give you the room, but the chief needs to see you immediately after." She left, closing the door behind her. Chen waited until her footsteps faded, then turned to Maya. His anger transformed instantly into concern. "Are you all right? Did they hurt you?" Maya shook her head. "I'm fine. Frustrated, but fine. I got your beacon signal," Chen said, sitting down. "When you missed your check-in and the beacon activated, we moved immediately. I've been on the phone for the last hour with the police chief, the mayor's office, and the deputy director." "This is a mess. How bad?" Maya asked. "Bad. The video from the gas station is already going viral. A driving while black is trending. Civil rights groups are calling for the officers' jobs, and your face is all over social media." Maya's stomach sank. "Torres? We don't know yet if Torres has seen it. His organization is careful about monitoring law enforcement activity. If they've been watching social media, they might have seen you getting arrested. Can we salvage this?" Maya asked. "The deal is in 2 days. We're so close." Chen rubbed his temples. "I've been thinking about that. Here's what I propose. We get you released on bail. We keep a minor charge on record, something that will get dropped later. Your cover story becomes that you were arrested on bogus charges because the cops were harassing you, but you hired a good lawyer and got it resolved quickly. Money talks, charges walk. It's believable." Maya considered this. In the criminal world, dealing with law enforcement was an occupational hazard. If she played it right, her arrest might actually strengthen her cover. She'd be a victim of the system, someone who knew how to work around problems. That could make her more valuable to Torres, not less. "It could work," she said slowly. "But we need to move fast. If Torres thinks I'm compromised, he'll cancel the deal." "Agreed. I'll coordinate with the chief. You'll be processed out within the hour. In the meantime, I need you to think about your story. Every detail needs to be solid." Chen stood to leave, then paused. "Maya, I'm sorry this happened. What those officers did was wrong. After this operation is over, we'll address it properly." "After the operation," Maya repeated. Because right now the mission was still the priority. It had to be. Chen left to meet with the police chief. Maya sat alone again, but this time her mind was racing with possibilities instead of frustrations. She could make this work. She had to. 20 minutes later, the door opened again. Officer Morrison stood there looking pale and shaken. Behind him was the police chief, a Latina woman in her 50s who looked like she wanted to strangle someone. "Ms. Richardson," the chief said formally, "on behalf of the Dallas Police Department, I apologize for this incident. You'll be released immediately. All charges are being dropped." Morrison couldn't meet Maya's eyes. I apologize," he stammered. "I made an error in judgment." Maya stood up slowly. She could have yelled at him, could have lectured him about racial profiling and abuse of power, but that would break character. Michelle Roberts wouldn't know how to do that. She'd just be relieved to be released. "I want my lawyer to know about this," Maya said coldly. This was harassment, pure and simple. "Understood," the chief said. "Again, we apologize." Maya was escorted out of the interrogation room, through the police station, and to the front desk where her belongings were returned. Her phone had 17 missed calls. Her watch's emergency beacon had been deactivated. Everything else was accounted for. As she walked out of the police station, she saw news cameras already set up outside. Reporters rushed toward her with microphones and questions. "Ms. Roberts, can you comment on what happened? Do you believe you were racially profiled?" Maya pushed past them without answering. A black SUV was waiting at the curb, FBI agents ready to drive her to a safe location. But Maya shook her head. "I'll drive myself," she said. "I need to get back to my car." An agent drove her back to the gas station. Her Honda was still there, exactly where she'd left it. Mr. Chen was still at the counter, and when he saw Maya, his face lit up with relief. He rushed outside. "Are you okay?" he asked. "Those police officers, they had no right." "I'm fine, Mr. Chen. Thank you for trying to help." "This country," he said, shaking his head sadly. "Sometimes it breaks my heart." Maya drove away from the gas station, heading toward her undercover apartment. She needed to check her burner phone, see if Torres or any of his associates had tried to contact her. She needed to control this narrative before it controlled her. 3 messages were waiting. One from Torres. "Saw the news. You good?" Maya typed back. "Cops being cops. They had nothing, so they let me go." "All good." His response came quickly. "Systems rigged. Glad you're out. See you Friday." Friday. The day of the deal. It was still on. Maya leaned back against her car seat and exhaled slowly. She'd survived. Her cover was intact. The mission would continue. But something had changed inside her. She'd spent 3 months pretending to be someone else, living a fake life all in service of justice. And in one afternoon, she'd been reminded that even as an FBI agent, even with all her training and authority, she was still a black woman in America. And that meant something different. The operation wasn't over. But when it was, Maya knew she'd have to reckon with what had happened today. With the anger, the humiliation, and the uncomfortable truth that the badge she carried didn't always protect her the way it should. For now, though, she had a job to finish. And she'd never failed a mission yet. The next morning, Maya woke up in her small undercover apartment with the sun streaming through cheap blinds. She'd barely slept. Her mind kept replaying yesterday's events, analyzing every detail, worrying about what could still go wrong. She checked her burner phone, nothing new from Torres. That was good. It meant he'd bought her story and wasn't suspicious, but Maya knew the next 24 hours would be critical. She needed to act normal, continue playing her role, and make sure Torres didn't have any last-minute doubts about trusting her. She showered, got dressed in casual business attire, and headed to a coffee shop where she often worked. It was part of her routine as Michelle Roberts. She'd set up her laptop, review fake financial documents, and sometimes meet with Torres's associates. Anyone watching would see exactly what they expected to see, a freelance consultant going about her day. What Maya didn't know was that back at the police station, a storm was brewing. The video from the gas station had exploded online overnight. Major news outlets were covering it. Civil rights organizations were demanding investigations, and the hashtag #OurDrivingWhileBlack had been shared over 200,000 times. The Dallas Police Department was facing serious backlash. Chief Patricia Gonzalez called an emergency meeting with her senior staff. Officers Morrison and Stevens were already there, sitting uncomfortably in chairs as their colleagues filed into the conference room. "Gentlemen," Chief Gonzalez began, her voice cold and professional, "do either of you want to explain to me how we ended up on national news for arresting an FBI agent?" Morrison shifted in his seat. "Chief, with all due respect, she didn't identify herself. We had reasonable suspicion." "Reasonable suspicion of what?" Gonzalez interrupted. "A black woman pumping gas? Tell me exactly what crime you witnessed." Stevens spoke up quietly. "We received a bolo for a theft suspect. The description was a black female, mid-20s to mid-30s, driving a dark sedan. Agent Richardson's vehicle matched that description." "So does half the population of Dallas," Gonzalez said sharply. "Did you have a license plate? A specific make and model? Any identifying features beyond race and vehicle color?" Neither officer answered. Detective Sarah Williams, who was also in the meeting, cleared her throat. "Chief, I've reviewed the body camera footage." The bolo was extremely vague, and the officer's approach was aggressive from the start. Gonzalez pulled up the footage on the conference room screen. Everyone watched as Morrison and Stevens confronted Maya, searched her car without clear consent, and eventually arrested her despite having no actual evidence of wrongdoing. "This is textbook racial profiling," Gonzalez said flatly, "and it's unacceptable." "Morrison, how many traffic stops have you made in the past year?" Morrison hesitated. "I don't have the exact number." 47, Gonzalez said, reading from a report. "Of those 47 stops, 31 involved black or Hispanic drivers. Your partner Stevens has similar numbers. That's not random. That's a pattern." The room was silent. Other officers looked uncomfortable. Some, Maya would later learn, agreed with the chief. Others felt she was being too hard on Morrison and Stevens, that they were just doing their jobs. "Here's what's going to happen," Gonzalez continued. Internal Affairs is opening a formal investigation. Both of you are on administrative leave pending the outcome. You'll undergo mandatory bias training, and if we find evidence of systematic profiling, there will be further consequences. Morrison's face turned red. This is political. You're throwing us under the bus because the media is making noise. I'm holding you accountable because you made a serious error in judgment. Gonzalez shot back. You humiliated a federal agent. You potentially compromised a major investigation, and you made this department look like we don't know how to do basic police work. So yes, there will be consequences. After the meeting, Detective Williams approached the chief privately. What about the FBI's operation? Are we going to be involved in the fallout? Gonzalez shook her head. That's above our pay grade. The feds are handling it. Our job is to clean up our own house. Williams nodded, but she couldn't shake a feeling of unease. Something about this whole situation didn't sit right with her. Meanwhile, across town, Maya was sitting in the coffee shop when Vincent Torres walked in. She looked up, genuinely surprised. Torres rarely met with her in public places. He was paranoid about surveillance, about keeping a low profile. Vincent, Maya said, keeping her voice casual. Didn't expect to see you here. Torres sat down across from her, his expression serious. I wanted to check on you. That thing yesterday with the cops, that was messed up. It was, Maya agreed. But I'm fine. They had nothing on me because there was nothing to find. Torres studied her face carefully. You handled it well. Didn't rat, didn't panic. That's good. Maya knew this was a test. Torres was watching for any sign that she might be compromised or might cooperate with law enforcement. She met his gaze steadily. I've dealt with cops before. They love harassing people who don't look like them. It's nothing new. Torres nodded slowly. You know what I respect about you, Michelle? You understand how the world really works. Most people, they think the system is fair. They think justice exists. But you get it. The game is rigged. Maya wanted to tell him he was wrong. She wanted to defend the system she dedicated her life to serving. But Michelle Roberts wouldn't say that. So instead, she just shrugged. I learned that lesson young. Good, Torres said. Because tomorrow I need you to be sharp. We're moving a lot of money and everything needs to go smoothly. Can you handle that? Of course, Maya said confidently. That's what you pay me for. Torres smiled. Friday, 10 a.m. The warehouse on Industrial Boulevard. Bring the paperwork we discussed. After he left, Maya sat alone with her coffee, her mind racing. Tomorrow was it. The final piece of the operation. FBI agents would be watching, ready to move in once the transaction was confirmed. Months of work were about to pay off, but Maya couldn't shake the feeling that something was going to go wrong. Maybe it was paranoia from yesterday's arrest. Maybe it was intuition. Either way, she needed to be prepared for anything. That evening, Maya met with SAC Chen in a secure FBI location. They reviewed the plan one final time. We'll have surveillance teams in place, Chen explained, pointing to a map of the warehouse district. Once Torres makes the transaction and you confirm the money transfer, we move in. You'll be wearing a wire and we'll have backup within 60 seconds if needed. What about local police? Maya asked. After yesterday, I'm not thrilled about the idea of more cops showing up. Chen grimaced. Chief Gonzalez is aware of the operation. She's assigned Detective Williams to coordinate with us. Williams is solid, you can trust her. Maya wasn't sure she trusted anyone in the Dallas PD anymore, but she nodded. Okay, what's our contingency if Torres gets spooked? We let him walk and regroup. I'm not risking your safety for this arrest. If anything feels wrong, you abort. Clear? Clear, Maya said. But they both knew aborting wasn't really an option. If Torres walked away tomorrow, he'd disappear. They'd lose him and the entire network. This had to work. That night, Maya returned to her apartment and tried to sleep. But every time she closed her eyes, she saw Officer Morrison's face, felt the handcuffs on her wrists, heard the click of the police car door locking her inside. She'd been trained to handle pressure, to compartmentalize emotions. But some experiences couldn't be compartmentalized. They stayed with you, changed you. Maya thought about her father, who'd been a construction worker in Chicago. He'd taught her about dignity, about standing tall even when the world tried to make you feel small. He'd been pulled over by police more times than she could count, always treated with suspicion until proven innocent. He'd never complained, never taught her to hate cops. Instead, he'd taught her to be better than the hate. That's why Maya had joined the FBI. She wanted to be part of the solution. She wanted to prove that justice could be blind, that the system could work for everyone. Yesterday had tested that belief. Tomorrow would test it even more. At 3 a.m., Maya's burner phone buzzed. A text from Torres. Change of plans. Meeting at 8 a.m. instead. Same location. Maya immediately forwarded the message to Chen. Within minutes, her phone rang. We can adjust, Chen said. But this is unusual. Torres is changing patterns. You think he's suspicious? Maybe, Maya admitted. Or maybe he's just being careful. Either way, we proceed as planned. After hanging up, Maya sat in the darkness of her apartment, thinking about all the choices that had led her to this moment. Tomorrow she'd walk into a warehouse with criminals, wearing a wire, pretending to be someone she wasn't. And somewhere outside, police officers and FBI agents would be waiting to make arrests. It was dangerous. It was necessary. And it was the job she'd chosen. Maya Richardson, undercover FBI agent, closed her eyes and finally managed a few hours of sleep before the most important day of her investigation began. Maya woke up at 5:30 a.m. to the sound of her alarm. She'd barely slept 3 hours, but adrenaline kicked in immediately. Today was the day. Everything she'd worked for over the past 3 months came down to the next few hours. She stood in the shower, letting the hot water wash over her, trying to clear her mind. In a few hours, she'd be sitting across from Vincent Torres and his associates, pretending to help them move $4 million in illegal funds. One wrong word, one nervous gesture, and everything could fall apart. Worse, she could end up dead. Maya had worked dangerous cases before. She'd been threatened by drug dealers, followed by gang members, even shot at during a raid in Houston 2 years ago. But this felt different. Maybe it was because of what happened at the gas station. Maybe it was because she'd been living as Michelle Roberts for so long that she sometimes forgot who she really was. Or maybe it was because she knew that after today nothing would be the same. She got dressed carefully. Black jeans, a simple blue blouse, comfortable shoes in case she needed to run. She checked her appearance in the mirror. Michelle Roberts stared back at her, not FBI Special Agent Maya Richardson. The woman in the mirror looked tired, a little stressed but professional. Perfect for someone about to facilitate a major financial transaction. At 6:15 a.m., Maya's real phone buzzed. It was SAC Chen. Safe house in 20 minutes. We need to get you wired up. Maya grabbed her laptop bag and headed out. The streets of Dallas were quiet this early. Just a few delivery trucks and early morning commuters. She drove carefully, watching for tails, making sure nobody from Torres's organization was following her. After 3 months undercover, paranoia had become second nature. The FBI safe house was a nondescript office building in a business district. Maya parked in the underground garage and took the elevator to the 3rd floor. Inside, the space had been converted into a temporary command center. Computer monitors lined one wall, showing various surveillance feeds. Maps of the warehouse district were spread across a table. FBI agents in tactical gear were checking weapons and reviewing positions. SAC Chen greeted her immediately. "How are you feeling?" "Ready," Maya said, though her stomach was churning. "Good. Let's get you set up." A tech specialist named Rodriguez approached with the wire equipment. It was incredibly small, a microphone the size of a button that would be sewn into her blouse, and a transmitter that would be hidden in the lining of her purse. The technology was impressive, almost invisible. "Testing," Rodriguez said after attaching everything. "Can you hear me clearly?" In Maya's ear, a tiny earpiece no bigger than a hearing aid let her hear the command center. "Crystal clear," she confirmed. Detective Sarah Williams arrived just as they were finishing the tech setup. She looked tired but focused. "Agent Richardson," she said formally. "I'll be coordinating with local units to make sure we have the perimeter secure. After what happened the other day, I wanted to personally ensure there are no communication problems." Maya appreciated that. Williams seemed genuinely committed to getting this right. "Thank you, Detective. I know this isn't easy, coordinating between agencies." Williams gave her a small smile. "We're all supposed to be on the same side. Sometimes we just need to be reminded of that." Chen gathered everyone for a final briefing. "Here's the situation." Torres moved the meeting time up by 2 hours. That could mean he's nervous, or it could mean he's just being cautious. Either way, we adapt. Richardson will enter the warehouse at 8 a.m. We have surveillance teams positioned on the surrounding buildings. Once we have confirmation of the transaction and visual on the money, we move in. Fast and clean. Torres has a history of violence, so expect him to be armed. Richardson, if anything feels wrong, you say the code word Chicago and we extract you immediately. Understood? Understood, Maya said. Questions? Chen looked around the room. Nobody spoke. All right then. Let's finish this. Maya had 30 minutes before she needed to leave for the warehouse. She sat alone in a small office, reviewing her cover story one last time. Michelle Roberts was a financial consultant who'd been helping Torres restructure his businesses for tax purposes. She'd earned his trust by being smart, discreet, and asking no questions about where the money really came from. Today, she was supposed to help him process a wire transfer through a series of offshore accounts. Simple, clean, untraceable. Except the FBI would be watching every step. Maya's hands trembled slightly as she picked up her coffee cup. She'd never been this nervous before an operation. Something about yesterday's arrest had shaken her confidence. She kept thinking about Officer Morrison's face, the way he'd looked at her with such automatic suspicion. It reminded her that even with all her training and authority, some people would always see her as a threat first and a person second. You good? Chen appeared in the doorway. Maya set down her coffee cup and nodded. Yeah, just thinking. About yesterday? About a lot of things. Chen sat down across from her. What happened at that gas station was wrong. We both know it. But right now I need you focused on today. Can you do that? I can, Maya said firmly. And she meant it. Personal feelings had to wait. The mission came first. At 7:40 a.m., Maya left the safe house and drove toward the warehouse district. The area was industrial, filled with shipping containers, truck yards, and old buildings. Torres had chosen the location carefully, isolated enough for privacy but not so remote that it would seem suspicious. Maya's earpiece crackled. We have eyes on you, Rodriguez's voice came through. Surveillance Team Alpha is in position. Bravo Team is ready. You're clear to proceed. Maya pulled into the warehouse parking lot. Torres's black Mercedes was already there, along with two other vehicles she didn't recognize. Her heartbeat accelerated. This was it. She grabbed her laptop bag, checked her appearance one final time in the mirror, and stepped out of her car. The morning air was cool, and somewhere in the distance she could hear the sound of traffic on the highway. Normal people going about their normal days, completely unaware of what was happening here. Maya walked toward the warehouse entrance. The door was slightly open. She pushed through and found herself in a large, dimly lit space filled with old equipment and storage containers. In the center of the room, Torres was waiting with three other men. Michelle. Torres greeted her with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Right on time. I like that. Of course, Maya said smoothly, walking toward them. Shall we get started? Torres gestured to a folding table where a laptop was set up. First, I need you to verify something for me. My associate Marcus here has some concerns about our transaction today. Marcus was a tall, heavily built man with prison tattoos visible on his arms. He stepped forward, studying Maya with cold, calculating eyes. I've been in this business a long time, Marcus said slowly. And I've learned to trust my instincts. Something about this whole setup feels wrong. Maya's pulse jumped, but she kept her expression neutral. What specifically concerns you? You, Marcus said bluntly. You show up out of nowhere 3 months ago. You're smart, professional, you ask no questions. And then yesterday you get arrested by cops and walk free within hours. That's convenient. Torres was watching Maya carefully, waiting to see how she'd respond. In her ear, she could hear Chen's voice. Stay calm. Stick to your story. Maya met Marcus's stare directly. You want to know why I walked? Because those cops had nothing. They stopped me for being black in the wrong neighborhood, searched my car illegally, and had to let me go because they had zero evidence of any crime. It happens every day in this country. You know that? Maybe, Marcus said. Or maybe you made a deal. Maybe you're wearing a wire right now. Maya's blood ran cold, but she didn't flinch. You think I'm a cop? Seriously? After everything I've done for Vincent's organization? Torres held up a hand. Easy, Marcus. Michelle's been solid. She's handled money for us, set up accounts, never asked questions. She's earned her spot here. Then she won't mind proving it, Marcus said. He pulled out a small electronic device. This detects radio frequencies. If she's wearing a wire, we'll know in about 10 seconds. Maya's mind raced. The FBI's wire was supposed to be undetectable by standard equipment. But what if Marcus had something more sophisticated? What if this was about to blow up right now? In her ear, Chen's voice was urgent. "We're moving in. Say the word and we extract you now." Maya had to make a choice. She could say Chicago and FBI agents would storm the warehouse within seconds. She'd be safe. But Torres and his organization would escape. Months of work would be wasted. And dangerous criminals would stay on the streets, or she could trust the technology and call Marcus's bluff. Marcus powered on the device and began walking toward her slowly. The room was completely silent except for the soft beeping of his detector. Maya stood perfectly still, her heart pounding so hard she was sure everyone could hear it. Marcus circled her once, holding the device close to her body. The beeping remained steady, unchanged. He checked her purse, her laptop bag, even her shoes. Nothing. Finally, Marcus stepped back and shrugged. "She's clean." Maya exhaled slowly, careful not to show too much relief. "Satisfied?" Torres laughed, breaking the tension. "Marcus is paranoid. Can't blame him after what happened to the Lopez crew last month. FBI took down their whole operation." He clapped Maya on the shoulder. "Come on. Let's handle this business so we can all go home." Maya followed him to the laptop, her legs shaking slightly. That had been too close. Way too close, but she was still in the game. And now, finally, it was time to finish what she'd started. Maya sat down at the folding table, opening her laptop with steady hands despite the adrenaline still coursing through her veins. Torres and his associates gathered around her, watching as she logged into a secure banking interface. This was the moment everything had been building toward. "All right," Maya said, slipping effortlessly back into her Michelle Roberts persona. "I've set up the transfer chain like we discussed. The money will move through 4 different accounts in 3 countries before landing in your final destination. Each transfer will look like legitimate business transactions. By tomorrow, it'll be completely clean." Torres leaned in, studying the screen. "And there's no way to trace it back to us?" "Not through traditional banking channels," Maya assured him. "The shell companies are layered. Even if someone tried to investigate, they'd hit dead ends." What Torres didn't know was that every keystroke Maya made was being recorded by the FBI. Every account number, every transfer code, every piece of information she entered was building the case against him. In her ear, Rodriguez's voice was calm and professional. "We're capturing everything. Keep going." Torres pulled out his phone and made a call. "Bring it in," he said simply. 2 men entered through a back door carrying large duffel bags. They set them on the table with heavy thuds. Torres unzipped one, revealing stacks of cash bound with rubber bands. "4 million, Torres said. "Count it if you want." Maya's trained eye could see this was serious money. Drug money, probably. Mixed with proceeds from other illegal activities. This was what months of investigation had been leading to. Concrete evidence of money laundering on a massive scale. "I trust you," Maya said, though she made a show of checking a few stacks. "Let's get this processed." She began entering the transfer information, narrating each step for Torres's benefit, but really for the FBI agents listening. First transfer going to the Cayman Islands account. That's 2 million. Second transfer splitting between Luxembourg and Singapore, and the final portion routing through the Czech Republic before landing in your designated account. Torres watched intently. Marcus still looked suspicious, standing in the corner with his arms crossed. The other associates were relaxed now, confident the deal was going smoothly. Maya hit the enter key for the final transfer. "Done, the money's moving now. You should see confirmation in your account within 24 hours. Torres smiled broadly. "You're good at this, Michelle. Really good. I'm thinking we might need to make this arrangement more permanent. Would you be interested in coming on full-time?" Before Maya could answer, Marcus's phone rang. He stepped away to take the call, his expression growing darker with each passing second. When he hung up, he turned to Torres with alarm in his eyes. "We got a problem. One of our lookouts just spotted unmarked vehicles positioning around the perimeter." "Looks like feds." Torres's smile vanished instantly. "What?" In Maya's ear, Chen's voice was urgent. "They made our surveillance. We're moving in now." "Get down!" Everything happened at once. The warehouse's main door exploded inward as FBI tactical teams stormed in, shouting, "FBI! Hands up!" Maya dove behind the table as Torres and his men reached for weapons. Gunfire erupted deafeningly loud in the enclosed space. Maya stayed low, her training kicking in automatically. She could hear Chen coordinating teams through her earpiece. Subject Torres moving toward the east exit.
"Cut him off!"
Marcus fired toward the FBI agents, but tactical teams had superior positioning. Within seconds, he was tackled to the ground and handcuffed. The other associates surrendered quickly, realizing they were outgunned and surrounded. Torres made a desperate run for a back exit, but Detective Sarah Williams was there, weapon drawn. "Dallas PD, don't move." Torres froze, hands slowly raising. His eyes scanned the warehouse until they landed on Maya, still crouched behind the table. Understanding dawned on his face. "You," he said with pure venom. "You're a cop." Maya stood up slowly, reaching into her blouse to remove the wire. "FBI Special Agent Maya Richardson. You're under arrest, Vincent." Torres's expression shifted from rage to bitter laughter. "You know what's funny? I actually liked you. I thought you were real." "I am real," Maya said quietly. "The person I am when I look at criminals like you, that's the real me." FBI agents swarmed Torres, handcuffing him and reading his rights. SAC Chen approached Maya, quickly checking her for injuries. "You okay?" "I'm fine," Maya said, though her hands were shaking now that the adrenaline was fading. "Is everyone secure?" "All suspects in custody. No agent injuries. This was a clean operation, Richardson. You did excellent work." Detective Williams joined them, holstering her weapon. "Agent Richardson, I wanted to say, what you did here took real courage, and I'm sorry about what happened earlier this week. That shouldn't have happened." "Thank you," Maya said. She looked around the warehouse at the arrested suspects, the seized money, the FBI agents processing evidence. 3 months of her life had led to this moment. "Is it really over?" "The arrests are done," Chen said, "but we'll be building the prosecution case for months. You'll need to testify, work with the lawyers, debrief everything you learned. It's not over yet. But the hardest part is." As Torres and his associates were led away in handcuffs, Maya felt a complex mixture of emotions. Relief that the operation was successful, pride in the work she'd done, but also exhaustion and a strange sense of emptiness. She'd been Michelle Roberts for so long that coming back to herself felt disorienting. Over the next several weeks, the arrests made national news. The FBI's successful takedown of a major money laundering operation was celebrated as a significant victory against organized crime. 23 people were arrested in total as the investigation expanded. Over $47 million in assets were seized. But the story that got even more attention was about Officer Morrison and the gas station incident. The viral video had sparked a broader conversation about racial profiling and police accountability. Internal Affairs completed their investigation and found a pattern of discriminatory stops. Morrison and Stevens faced disciplinary action, suspensions without pay and mandatory retraining. Chief Gonzalez used the incident to launch department-wide reforms. New training programs on implicit bias were implemented. A civilian review board was established to oversee complaints against officers. Body camera policies were strengthened. The changes weren't perfect and they didn't solve systemic problems overnight, but they were a start. 3 months after the arrests, Maya was invited to speak at the Dallas Police Academy. She stood before a room full of young officers in training, feeling nervous in a different way than she'd felt undercover. "My name is Special Agent Maya Richardson," she began. "Some of you might have seen me in a video that went viral. I was the woman arrested at a gas station for matching a vague description of a suspect. I was handcuffed, taken to a police station, and treated like a criminal. And I'm here today not to shame anyone, but to share what that experience taught me." The room was completely silent. Maya could see some officers looking uncomfortable, others leaning forward with genuine interest. "I've spent 10 years in law enforcement," Maya continued. "I've faced down armed criminals, infiltrated dangerous organizations, and put my life on the line for justice. But I'd never felt as helpless as I did in that moment, standing with my hands on my car while officers searched my vehicle without cause. Not because I was doing anything wrong, but because of how I looked." She paused, letting her words sink in. "You're all entering a profession that gives you incredible power. The power to stop people, to search them, to arrest them, even to use lethal force. That power comes with enormous responsibility. Every interaction you have shapes how communities view law enforcement. Every decision you make can either build trust or destroy it." Maya told them about the operation, about how close she'd come to having her cover blown, about how the arrest could have cost not just her safety, but months of investigative work. She talked about the importance of questioning your own assumptions, of recognizing implicit biases, of treating every person with dignity regardless of what they look like. I'm not asking you to be perfect, Maya concluded. I'm asking you to be thoughtful. To remember that behind every traffic stop, every interaction, is a human being who deserves respect. Because one day that person might be someone like me, someone on your side, someone working toward the same goals. And you'll never know unless you treat them with the fairness they deserve. After the presentation, several young officers approached Maya with questions. One young black woman in uniform waited until the others had left, then spoke quietly. Agent Richardson, I'm about to graduate from the academy. And honestly, I'm scared. Scared that I'll be treated the way you were. Scared that my own colleagues won't have my back. How do you keep going? Maya looked at this young woman, seeing herself years ago, full of idealism and determination, but also fear. You keep going because the work matters, Maya said gently. Because if people like us don't step up, who will? The system isn't perfect. It's broken in a lot of ways. But we change it from the inside. One decision at a time, one interaction at a time. You be the kind of officer you wish had stopped you that day. That's how change happens. The young woman nodded, tears in her eyes. Thank you. Later that week, Maya attended the sentencing hearing for Vincent Torres. He received 15 years in federal prison for money laundering, along with his top associates. As Torres was led away in handcuffs, he looked at Maya one final time. You're good at what you do, he said simply. I'll give you that. Maya didn't respond. There was nothing more to say. Months after everything ended, Maya took a weekend off and drove back to that Sunoco gas station on Highway 45. Mr. Chen was still there, and when he saw her walk in, his face lit up with recognition. Agent Richardson, he exclaimed. I've been following your story. You're a hero. Maya smiled, feeling genuinely touched. I'm just doing my job. But thank you, Mr. Chen. Thank you for speaking up for me that day. Of course, he said warmly. You know, after everything that happened, I've seen some changes. Police come by now, they're more respectful. They talk to people instead of just assuming things. Maybe something good came from all that trouble. Maya purchased a bottle of water and a bag of chips, the same things she'd been planning to buy the day she was arrested. As she walked back to her car, she stood at the same pump where everything had started. She looked around at the ordinary gas station, at people going about their ordinary lives. She thought about Officer Morrison, who'd completed his retraining and, according to reports, had become more mindful in his interactions. She thought about the young officers she'd spoken to at the academy. She thought about Vincent Torres in prison and the communities that were safer because he was off the streets. The work of justice was complicated, messy, and often painful. It didn't always feel heroic. Sometimes it felt frustrating and exhausting. But it mattered. Every case, every arrest, every life touched by the work, it all mattered. Maya Richardson got into her car and drove away, ready for whatever came next. Because she was an FBI agent, a black woman, and someone who believed that despite all its flaws, the system could be better. Could be fairer, could be just, and she would keep fighting to make it so. One case at a time, one day at a time, one person at a time. That was how real change happened. Not in dramatic moments, but in the steady, persistent work of people who refused to give up on the possibility of a better world.